Over the last week, there's been a rash of negative news and stories that deal with the future of real estate values locally and nationally. And you might be worried, is the real estate market headed towards a total collapse? Our real estate contributor, Denny Grimes, is here. Give us a little context about all of this. Good morning, Denny.
Morning.
It did sound very bad, some of these sales down, plunging. It didn't look good.
No, in fact, we've had more negative news stories this week than we've had rain. And it kind of started with a report that came out of Washington, D.C. that talked about the existing and new home sales were at their lowest level since they started tracking this data back in 1963. And so that spun off a lot of other folks and pundits that were saying then that we're taking that and leaping forward to say that houses will never go up in value again. And some people are even calling for the total collapse of the real estate market. So, you know, if I was going to buy into all that, I'd be hanging up my shingle and doing something else for a living.
So how do we interpret that news? Because when you see the headlines, at the very least, sales plunge, lowest on record, what does that really mean, at least for us? Because we are sort of our own little monster down here, our real estate market.
Yeah, you know, and we don't operate in a bubble here either. I mean, we have to depend on the national economy as well. So this is how I see it. Number one is I still believe the national economy is slowing. Now, that's not good for the real estate market, but I believe, you know, in spite of what certain political parties want you to believe, I believe it is slowing. The report that came out that existing home sales and new home sales are at their record low, it can be a little bit magnified from the point that when you take away the government tax credits that ended in April, you're going to find that the May, June, July sales are going to be lower, primarily because I believe the tax credit did not create buyers, it just sucked buyers forward in that supply line. So now we have that air bubble. So I don't think the sales numbers are as bad as the reports suggest. Now, if that theory holds true, we should start to see the third quarter and fourth quarter numbers getting a little bit more in balance with previous years.
And you made the point to me, too, about how last year was so big that this year almost fails by comparison.
Yeah, now we're talking about the local market. I mean, last year was basically a perfect round of golf, you know, in 18. So we had such a great year last year. In fact, I predicted at Market Watch this past February that our sales would be down, but how would we handle the negative headlines? Because the headlines recently have been July sales plunge. Well, when you compare it to last year, yes, they're down 20 or 30%, but when you compare it to a good year, our sales are even are better than most years in the past. So our local real estate market is healthy. People are buying homes. Another report that came out is saying that real estate values aren't going to be going up like they were, which is true. You know, real estate is not an ATM machine, but people have to live somewhere, and so people have a choice to either rent or to buy, and there are still a lot of advantages in home ownership. And specifically in our market, you're buying stuff below the cost of replacement.
Yeah.
So long term, I don't know that that's going to be a bad thing.
So at least there's some hope. You can take some positive out of it.
Absolutely. It's not all negative. The sky isn't falling.
All right. When you were here last time, we talked about this hardest hit program that could help out some homeowners in trouble. Got a lot of feedback about that.
Yes, they went to the website. They were trying to find the website, and it wasn't working. So the URL they should go to is Florida Housing, www.floridahousing.org. That will then take them to a splash page, and they want to click on Florida Hardest Hit, and that will take them to the criteria they need for the assistant program.
All right, but if you're in the market, you can't get rich necessarily anymore. Home values will come back, right?
Well, home values, will, you know, are going to come back slowly, but again, that is a message for sellers that are waiting for that. Mm-hmm. You know, you may be looking at 10 or 15, 20 years in some cases for values to reach their peaks.
All right, thank you, Denny, for coming in, kind of giving us some perspective. We'll be right back with top stories, weather, and traffic.